You're a regular in Atlantic City, so I'm just curious, what do you like about performing here? Do you have any special memories of any shows you've done in Atlantic City?
Well, it's part of it is especially like when I was, we started doing this acoustic thing. It started just as like, we do radio promo and we were going around to these radio stations and like a lot of times, they'll have like 50 or 100 winners and they'll come to a bar and we'll play like a small set. And it just seemed like so much fun that I thought, why don't we turn this into add another person, do a full three-piece and have like a full-on storytellers kind of a vibe. And of all the places that we did this tour, we did a lot of casinos around the country. And there's that small, intimate venue at Borgata was just like perfect for it. And we did 3 nights, and then when we were done with it, the Borgata people had come to me and said, "Listen, how would you feel about doing this every year, like on the same weekend every year for our foundation for Sidewalk Angels?" So it just seemed like a perfect thing. And now it's funny looking back. I'm really glad that I did it because I get them mixed up. I go back and forth between Matchbox World and Solo World and Matchbox World and Solo World. And like right now, I'm in Atlanta playing with Matchbox, and we're getting ready to start, our tour, and we're going to be touring all year. And it's a nice little breakup in the middle of it, to kind of go and play a lot of these solo songs that aren't going to get any love for the rest of the year. You know what I mean? And just be able to revisit them and let some of the fans come play those before they can come on the road and hear all the Matchbox songs again.
For the solo shows, will you be doing any Matchbox 20 stuff, or is it all just your own material?
No, I have a thing with Matchbox stuff, which is if it's stuff that I wrote alone. Like some of a lot of the stuff that I wrote, I'll do those, and I do those acoustically. Like even when I was on the road with a full band solo, I always felt kind of weird about my solo band playing Matchbox stuff because the songs are mine, and if I play you like a Ben on an acoustic guitar or 3 a.m. Or one of those, like that's how I wrote it, and that seems appropriate to me. But then like to have my solo guitar player playing parts that Kyle wrote. That would seem weird to me. But that's what makes the difference, I think, between going to see Matchbox 20 is, when I bring a song to Matchbox, everything that you hear on that record is the band. It's their personality. It's their, it's their personal touch that they put onto it. So I think that I've also tried to separate those a little bit just so that you have a reason to, if you come see me one year, I don't want you to feel like, well, why go see Matchbox? I've already seen him. It's a completely different show. And at this point, after a couple solo records, and also, like I wrote songs for other people. Like I've written songs for Mick Jagger and Willie Nelson and Seal and Mary J. Blige, and so like to be able to play some of those songs acoustically and bring those out, and it's the only time that I get to perform them as well.
So you'll include some of those in this show coming up then?
Yeah, and it's really just the solo acoustic is more of a storyteller's vibe. I come out with me and 2 guys, and we have a couple guitars and a piano, and some lap steel and just kind of various instruments playing around. And, kind of a loose idea of a set list. And, just kind of talk about, like, the impetus behind a song or the reason, why it was written, or maybe a story about writing it that you might not have known. And so it kind of just turns into a very intimate moment with just, with me and a small group of fans. And then we come back with Matchbox and we'll play the bigger room with a full band.
Right.
And it's like a regular show.
Kind of regular production, like a bigger production.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure, like, in between... After we tour this year, and then before I do another solo record, I'll probably go back out and do another acoustic solo tour. Because all that, when we do that, all the proceeds go to Sidewalk Angels, so to my wife and I foundation. And so it's a good way to get awareness for it. It's a good way to raise some money for it, and you get to raise money while playing music, which is kind of like a bonus.
And going back to you mentioned some of the songs you've written for other people. Is that a different process to write for someone else, or is do you write the song and then try and match it up to someone who might be looking for a song, or how does it work for you?
It's gone both ways. Like, I hung out with Willie Nelson for like 2 days, and we just sat in a room smoking pot and playing each other's songs. And then when it was all done, he came to me and he had written down 3 of the songs that I had written that I played him, and was like, has anybody recorded these? And I said, no. And he's like, well, I want to do these. But like for Mick Jagger, I knew that I was going to be writing with Mick, and so the night before, I actually wrote the first verse and chorus for the 20 song Disease, and I brought it in, and me and Mick finished it, and then we wrote another song called Visions of Paradise together in the room, and so he did Visions of Paradise on his solo record, and then we did Disease on our record. So it kind of goes every way. Like a lot of times, like a lot of times if I write a song alone, then it's usually for me. Like, know that, so-and-so is looking for a song, or I'm going to write it with someone. That's kind of that special thing of, like, that song wouldn't exist if it wasn't for, that idea in my head of this artist that I'm writing for. Or, a lot of times, like, if I write for someone, I'll write with another producer, like me and Corey Rudy will get together and we'll write a song for Mark Anthony, something like that. And then, and then you know that whatever we did in that room is something I can do on my own, because it's all about that extra ingredient of that other writer and, taking it to a place that I wouldn't have taken it. So right now we're just in Atlanta with Matchbox. We're doing a private gig. I just said that, like, right now I'm here in Atlanta, just doing a one-off private gig with Matchbox. And then we start our tour at the end of this month.
Right, and you're going to come back to Atlantic City with the band, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you just have the new album came out in September. Were you nervous about making, new music together again? Because it was the first new album, I think, in about 10 years, right?
Yeah, and it's also, we decided to do everything differently. Like, it used to be where I would just write a bulk of songs and bring them to the band. But a lot of the stuff that we did, like, the first two singles that we put out were songs that me and Kyle and Paul wrote together. We all just sat in a room. Like, we'd go to Nashville at Kyle's studio for a week and write, and then we'd go to Paul's studio in LA for a week and write, and then we go to my studio in New York and we write for a week. And then, eventually you just amass all this stuff together, and then we, started figuring out what out of all that stuff that we wrote, what sounds like a record. So it was like, now that I have a solo world that I can go to, it seems less important for me to write everything for Matchbox, because I have a voice for that. Right. So, on the new Matchbox record, it's a whole new personality. There's songs that we all wrote together. There's songs that Paul wrote, songs that Kyle wrote. There's even a song that Paul and Kyle wrote that Kyle sings on this record. So I think, for us, it was about, if we're gonna continue to make music, how do we do it so that it's not just a routine anymore? Like, how do we do it so that we're still exciting ourselves with something that we didn't know we were going to come up with?
And for some people, once they go solo, they don't want to go, they don't want to continue with the group. They sort of, move forward in different directions. So what appealed to you about sort of, reconnecting with Matchbox and continuing this, creative sort of partnership?
Well, I think, there's, like, a lot of times you have, Tom Petty's one of my heroes. And, there's very little difference between a Tom Petty record and a Tom Petty and a Heartbreakers record. Mm. It's like in fact, on Tom Petty solo records, a lot of the Heartbreakers play on those records as well. For me, the two worlds are so different. And, like, the sound that I make alone solo and the sound that the band makes are so different that like, I can't just have one. Like, there's something about, like, after doing solo for a long time, there was something great about stepping on the stage with those guys and going back to, like, more of a bare bones rock. This is just a rock band. This is just five guys and, that plug in the instruments and play some music. Whereas there's a little more danceability, I think, to my solo stuff. A little more production. It's like an 8-piece band with female backup singers, and it kind of goes to different places in Matchbox. So that way, I kind of get my fill of both kind of worlds.
Speaking of different worlds, I saw that you were on The Voice as a celebrity mentor and kind of had that sort of reality show experience. So what was that like for you to work on the show, and what kind of advice were you able to give the performers?
Well, I mean, some of them, there's really not much I could say. I mean, some of them, like, there's some, girl that, she was just her voice is so amazing. Like, there's very little that I can tell her about her craft, except for, I think my advice to her was, listen, you sing better than I do, and I'm rich, so you're going to be fine. But she, I mean, a lot of times it was just, like, I do have 16 years of experience in, like, actually in the business, 20 some odd years playing music, since we started playing out as, like, a local band. And then, working your way through the clubs and playing it and, getting Atlantic to come see us and, all that stuff that happens, and then making that first record 16 years ago and kind of watching the entire music business and the way that people, experience music completely change every year dramatically as you go through this. And so there's a certain point of view that I think that someone who's been doing it as long as I have has to offer about just the business more than the craft. You know what I mean? And just about, maybe about focus and about the things that are important and about, like, maybe sometimes you have a really great voice, but you're thinking so much about, the tone of your voice that you're not actually thinking about the lyrics that you're singing. And sometimes that's really important, think about the song, think about what these words are saying so you can actually tell the story and not just sing it. Like, a lot of times when there's kids do those shows, and I say kids, some of them are like 40, but a lot of times when those kids do those shows, they've got all these people telling them, you know, like, this is where the camera is, and this is how you're styled up, and watch your voice, and watch where you are, and watch your, you know, stage presence. And they're kind of up there thinking about everything except for the song. And so that was a lot of what I was talking to these people about was kind of that. And then it was nice because in December, Matchbox had to come, and we actually got to play on The Voice. And we got to do a song with two of the contestants that I mentored, and they sang with us. So that was a nice way to kind of bring it together. I mean, you know, this gig is kind of the same thing. Like you write a record, you put out a record, you make videos, you go tour. So being able to do something a little different like that, which is also like a part of a bigger piece of a puzzle, which is like this huge pop culture phenomenon. You know, and then being able to do it with you know, Adam Levine is an old friend of mine, and you know, CeeLo I've known for a long time. So like just being able to kind of, for them to let me be a part of their world for a second, fly on that wall, that was really cool to do something different like that. And then I think the biggest difference I noticed, Rob, was that like now after I did The Voice, when I go to my local diner, teenagers want to take pictures with me. You know. Yeah. Like now it's like, oh, that's Rob Thomas. Where he used to go. I recognize that guy. I think he's a friend of my dad's or something.
And do you think that, you know, had these shows been around when you were trying to come up, would you have liked to have had that kind of chance of competition? Or would you, you know, does that competition appeal to you, or was it something you wouldn't want to be a part of it?
No, I mean, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of music being competitive. You know, I mean, I'm good friends with Andre Agassi. And, you know, we have this conversation all the time about the difference in our worlds. You know, we both have to go, we both have to give our all, but the difference is when he leaves the court, somebody wins and somebody loses. Right, you know, in music, everybody wins. Right. You know? That's what, in fact, I told him, I was like, you know, the difference between me and you is when I play Rod Arena, we win every time. Right, yeah. You know? And that's the good thing about music is, like, you know, you can have 5 different favorite bands, and you can have 5 different songs that you love at a certain time. You know what I mean? Like, your music is diverse, and your taste can be diverse. And so I don't think that, you know, that music should be a competition. But, you know, I don't know what it's like now. If I were 18, 19 years old and I was a songwriter and I was looking at this music business as it is now, you know, being the way that it used to be where you just go out and you play clubs until somebody comes and sees you, that doesn't happen as much anymore. There is something to be said about, like, you know, in this new age, when these kids do this, and then, you know, even if you do it, it's not like instant fame. Like, it might be instant fame, but that's where the work begins for a lot of these people. Yeah. If you're Phil Phillips, he's going on the road with us, actually. We're taking Phil Phillips out for a part of this first tour. But if you're him, an idol, but now he's working his ass off. And now the work begins. Now he's traveling around, he's doing the promo, he's going, you know, all over the world. So, you know, it's not like it circumvents the work. If anything, this is just a new A&R. You know, to get a chance to let people hear your talent, and then, you know, then you can see what you can do with it. I understand it. Like, I'm not a hater of it at all. Like, I get it where it is. It's so different from my experience of how we started out that I just can't comprehend, you know, what I would have done. And, you know, somebody like a Tom Petty, you know, is a great example, or Elvis Costello, or Willie Nelson. You know, when you're talking about, like, these kind of voice competitions, those guys probably wouldn't have won. You know? Yeah. And they're my favorite voices in the world, and they're my favorite songwriters. But, you know, it's called The Voice. It's not called The Song. You know, I don't know. I think that even if I would have been a part of that world, I don't know that I would have won. You know what I mean? I would have been probably out pretty early. Like, I would have been out sometime around when we had to do, like, you know, I don't know, old R&B or something. I don't know.